Hi, so as you know, I've just finished my first ever VTuber model when I finished Miku, right? So I suppose I decided it was the time to make a VTuber model for myself. And so since Miku was my first ever model that I've ever completed, this is basically my second, so I had to sort of try to use the skills I've learned from making Miku. And I think that definitely this one was a major improvement compared to Miku, so well, if you're interested in seeing how I improved since the first one, just stay tuned, yeah? I think definitely the biggest change is the fact that I finally learned how physics work in Live 2D, and that is a big portion of why the current model looks much more lively than the first model, because in the first model, even though I rigged the hair and everything, I didn't actually make it such that the physics would affect how the hair moved. So even after all the effort of making sure that the hair was rigged, nothing, it didn't show up at all because there was no physics attached to it. So here you see me just sort of sketching how I want myself to look. I already had a rough idea of how I wanted to look because this character is a character that I already had, right? My cute little bug self. Yeah, so I just sort of referenced the profile picture I had already drawn and added a few details that I already knew I had. For instance, because I used my left hand to draw, as you can see from, the large hand on screen. Because I used my left hand to draw, that needed to be an actual hand. And the right hand is a sort of bug-inspired hand, so those were details that I made sure to leave in. Also, one funny thing about how when I drew the sketch is that I sort of drew it in a semi-chibi style. I wanted to make it a simple model at the start. I wanted it to be like a chibi style model, but I realized as I drew more and more that I actually don't know how to draw a chibi, so it ended up being a weird amalgamation of the chibi style and an actual just the normal way that I draw. So that was a bit weird, which is why the face is so circular and yet the main body structure is sort of just like a normal body. But I think in the end it was a nice balance between a sort of simple-ish design and a more complex full body design with full limbs and everything. And you see here we're moving on to line art, and honestly, even though I drew like the little fellow in the corner as me sweating when I do line art, I personally feel that line art is the most relaxing. One key thing that sort of stressed me out when I did the line art is because I wanted the hair to be sort of floofy, right? And so I needed to make sure that I separated several sections of hair, and that's what I basically did here. And also one key feature of this model that I wanted to make sure was present was my antenna. I really wanted the antenna to do a little swishy. So yeah, I made sure that they were there. And also for the model part of the antenna, I basically wanted the back to be behind the front bangs and the front sort of bottom area to be in front of the front bank. So I didn't really know what the best way to do this was, so I just decided to draw two different layers of the antenna and then glue them together in Live 2D so that the bottom half would be in front of the front bangs and the back would be behind the front bangs. So I think that worked out. And as you can tell, sort of the parts I'm struggling with most is the bug hand as well as the shoes, because when I was originally drawing this character, I never even considered what shoes they would be wearing as well as the mechanics of this hand. So I sort of made it up as I went along. Because if you think about it, if I was truly using this as a VTuber model, nobody would ever see the bottom of the model. So I figured that for my purposes, I didn't really need to focus too much on the intricacies of how the feet and shoes worked. But as for the top, I really wanted it to be somewhat simple, a simple sort of outfit that I would probably wear in person. So when I was drawing the eyes, the eyes and the mouth were really the focal point for me because this is the part that most people would end up looking at when I actually use the model, right? So I just tried to make sure that they were as I wanted. I really wanted the little fangs as part of my face as I drew them in the profile picture. So now I move on to colouring, and for colouring, I always sort of use this very ugly shade of green as the background so that I make sure I don't miss any, spots when I'm colouring. One thing I noted when I was doing the hair, in the end, like after when I started rigging, was that my colouring was not the most thorough that it could have been, because some of the sections of hair, when they moved after I rigged them, they would leave gaps in between strands of hair. So if you notice that there are gaps in between the strands of hair when they move, it's because I didn't necessarily plan out these strands of hair properly. But I mean, they're just strands of hair, so I reckon it's sort of realistic anyway, so it's okay. So at this stage, I continued drawing on the experience I had when I was doing Miku. So here you can see I'm colouring in the ears, right? And a funny thing about these ears and this earrings that you see is that they will literally never be seen in the model, because as much as I move, even if I move as far left and as far right as possible, they will literally never be seen. They will always be hidden behind the front bangs, so that's extremely humorous, but at least I know they're there. And the reason I decided that I wanted to colour in the entire body below the clothes was, in the off chance that I ever want to make a different outfit, I wouldn't have to recolor any of these parts of the skin. I could just draw the clothes. But as an afterthought, I probably wouldn't have done this because it's not likely that I will change the clothes and not change the model. The next time I try to do something like this or try to rig another model, I will probably have improved at something or other, and I would want to re-rig the entire thing. So I wouldn't do this in the future, but it was good because it sort of helped me to make sure that the body proportions made sense. So the main section of detail on these clothes is this little ribbon here, which is a feature that I love, but also once again it's another feature that literally no one will ever see ever again, because nobody streams with half thigh up. But at least it's cute, and at least I know it's here. And here also I wanted to do the straps below the little top here, just in case I somehow, for some reason or another, wanted to remove the top. But realistically, I really like the top, so there's no way I would remove it just for the camisole below. So as you can see here, I'm just separating out every single chunk of hair, especially for the front part, because this is the section of face that people will actually see, right? So I just wanted to make sure that the front and the face were just properly done so that, it's a face that I can be happy to look at. Now we move on to the eyes and everything, so another extremely important part of the face, and the little mouth. So what I learned from last time is that I really need to extend the lips area, the colouring around the lips and mouth much more than I did previously, so I made sure they were sufficiently big, and also coloured the mouth below such that I could roughly estimate how much extra skin would be needed around the lips. Okay, and we're finally into Live 2D. Honestly, at this point when I started rigging this, I had already kind of forgotten everything that I had learned from rigging the first model, because it had been a while, and during the first model I was sort of looking at the guide, like the Live 2D guide on the website, but this time I decided, let's just fiddle around with it and hope for the best. So that's what I was doing most of the time, which worked out mostly. And basically for this, I tried my best not to look at any guide. I just used my instincts to see what would work out the best, especially for just the main parts of the body and the face. Actually, one hack I've seen recently on Twitter is, using the Liquify tool in Clip Studio Paint to estimate the face angles, but unfortunately I do not have Clip Studio Paint, nor do I have any sort of art program that allows me to use the Liquify tool, so I just had to use my instinct. And also, as you can see, I'm using the free version of Live2D because I'm not about to shell out money for just me learning how to use Live2D. So I can't flip my rigging or mask because that's a pro feature, so I just decided to fiddle around with it for both sides. Yes, and this model is where I first learned how to use the glue feature, which turned out really useful, not just for my devious plan of gluing the antennas together, but also me when I had to glue the hair base to the back of the hair, because I realized the back of the hair was swaying a lot and sort of not that's not how hair works, right? So I just glued them in place eventually when I figured out how this works, and I can't believe I didn't learn this before because it's so useful. So I think if next model I ever rig, I'm definitely going to make good use of this feature. And one feature I definitely use the hell out of compared to my previous time rigging is this brush feature where you sort of can move around the mask. That was really useful. That was something I learned in the previous one, and yeah, I would definitely use it again, as well as this tool that allows me to sort of make one line and then morph the whole mask with it. I don't know what the name is, but it's really nice. I love it. So once I'm done with the body, I sort of move in between the body and the head because this is where I'm just fiddling around with random nonsense and hoping that it looks half good. And it's at this point of recording that I realized, because I recorded using OBS only the main program, none of the sections where it switched to me figuring out how physics work was recorded, and that's a significant part of this learning process, so sorry about that. The work in progress for any sort of area where I'm still rigging the face angles is so cursed because I just put a warp deformer on the whole face to give the general idea of where the eyes and mouth and everything should be, but then it looks so cursed because everything is morphed, and later on I have to fix all of this. So this section is basically me wrapping up my first session of rigging and importing it into VTube Studio to test it out. And this is me realizing that 1, the mouth doesn't move at all even when I open my mouth hella wide, and also 2, the fact that when I blink, the eyes sort of concave downwards, which is not how eyes or mouths work. So this is my second time figuring out the mouth rigging and trying to make it more precise. And at first I was testing out, making it more sensitive and making like the curves more prominent. And then later on, after I re-rig the mouth, I go ahead and sort of rig it even more precisely based on a tutorial that I found that I will put in the description. It was super helpful. It was a combination of me watching YouTube guides as well as looking at certain images when you Google sort of mouth rigging and how they roughly did it. So that I just followed the template given by these videos. Yeah, but here's just me struggling a bit before I move on to the eyes. And at this point I realized that I actually had to rig the jaw too, because when mouth's open, chin actually moves as well, and I had never considered that. Oh, and finally I'm starting to fix the eyes. I like they shouldn't concave all the way down to the lower eyes. In fact, the bottom eyelashes should move slightly up so that they meet the top lashes in the middle a little bit, so that it's one straight line. So I fixed that and it looks definitely much better now. So this is my second time now trying to rig the mouth after looking at the YouTube tutorial that I saw. So I added the funky little parameters in between such that there'll be more precision in the mouth movements, and I think it definitely worked for the better. Finally, I'm not just smiling and opening my mouth. There's actual sort of vowel shapes that mouths typically make. And this was really cool because I didn't realize that in between portions of the mouth should change in shape so much. I sort of had to adapt it a little bit because I wanted my mouth to be slightly wider than I reckon most models are, but I really like it. And yeah, so here's my finished model. I like the little hair swishes, can you see it? And like the blinking, eyes look left and right, smile, blink blink, look left, look right. Okay, wait, let me show you this a bit more zoomed in. Just blub blub blub, blub blub. Yeah, I like it. Sway sway, look left, look right, look up, look down. Yeah, and I'm really proud of it. The mouth isn't the most accurate, and neither are the eyes, because I'm using my phone right now to track it, and I don't have money for iOS, so this is gonna have to do. No blinking. I mean, no winking because no Apple, but I don't think I'll be winking that much anyway. And yeah, I kind of like it, and I hope you do too. I really learned a lot in this second time rigging, especially because I put in way more effort compared to the Miku one. I definitely tried my best to make sure, that the hair actually swayed and the breathing was correct. And I learned how to use the physics and also how to make the mouth move a lot more. And, eye movements. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed seeing me sort of figure out how to use Live 2D for a second time. And yeah, I'm gonna be posting a lot more, and maybe I'll try to use this model if I feel like it, but maybe I won't because it's sort of a pain to hook up my phone and set up the tripod for this. But I'll try my best, and I hope you liked it.